is going in the bloopers. This little cat was sleeping before I started recording. I didn't want to be everywhere. What's up, my dudes? Today I'm going to teach you all about channeling your energy and different ways that you can go about doing that. Now, this is going to be from a very beginner perspective, so depending on what you practice or depending on your personal preference, you can do different methods of channeling your energy. Now, channeling your energy is something that every witch should be doing, regardless of what they practice. So if you are practicing for a long time, or maybe this is your first chance, this is a good way to know what you're doing before you start a spell, and also just different ways that you can go about doing a spell before you even practice. This video was actually inspired by this comment right here. They're basically asking me what you can do before you're casting a spell and just doing any sort of manifestation or visualization. Now, the main way that I like to think about this is meditation and visualization is a method of doing something before you practice a spell, but it's not necessarily needed. For me personally, I can't really just sit in one place and just meditate on doing something. That would just bug me and kind of annoy me. But what I like to do is incorporate different methods into my meditation to just help me. Also, the same thing with visualization. I can sort of picture what I'm going to be doing in the future and maybe picture the energies that are going to be present whenever I do manifest anything. I cannot do that on a regular basis, and also I don't expect newcomers to do that in general. My preferred method when doing any sort of meditation or visualization is to focus on any sort of audio. So this could either be like a soothing soundtrack in the background, or if I would like to, sometimes I will do a guided meditation that will auditorily help me to get into the right mind frame. This is usually what I'll do first, and then if I'm doing any sort of visualization, I will either look at something, so either some sort of vision board, or just scroll through and look at different images that appeal to me and just align with whatever I'm trying to manifest, and then doing any sort of affirmation writing. Now, you can do any combination of this, or you can pick and choose, but this is just some different alternatives that you can do to do any sort of meditation or any sort of visualization. If you're just getting started into witchcraft and you might not know, channeling your energies is the practice of doing any sort of grounding, centering, or just intention setting that will just absorb the energies around you, or just absorb any energies that you're setting to not only help you personally, but also if you want to, you can use this to channel the energy that you have inside you to do any sort of spell or ritual. Now, you don't always have to do any sort of spells or rituals when you are channeling your energy, but channeling your energy is just something that you can do before you do a spell, and also just something that you can do on a regular basis to just help you in general and just do some sort of self-care and sort of like a recharge throughout your practice. And just the main reasons for doing any sort of channeling of energy is if you're doing any sort of healing, manifestation, or any sort of spiritual growth. Now, this can be for a multitude of reasons, and also it really doesn't matter what your specific reasons are. Before you do any sort of practice, it's a good idea to channel the energies either from outside sources, maybe worship any sort of deities, or inside sources, maybe you focusing on yourself and focusing on the energies that you have, or if you want to do sort of a mix and use any sort of elements that will not only give you energy, but also you're putting your energy out into those materials. There are multiple different ways of channeling your energy and also multiple different ways of capturing energy, but the main ways that most people will be doing that is to do any of those three. Now that you know a little bit about channeling your energies and what that means, I'm going to show you a step-by-step guide on how you can cast your first spell or just cast a spell in general. Now, this is a very basic framework that you can go by, and also I do the same thing whenever I am about to perform a spell. I go through the same step process and I go through the same exact things whenever I am about to do any sort of spell, regardless of how advanced or how simple it is going to be. So before I get into how to cast a spell and just different methods of channeling your energy, leave in the comments down below what you're manifesting or just different things that you're working on. Maybe people in the comments can support you, or maybe I can send you a little bit of energy depending on what you're doing and just help you in general whenever you are trying to do anything in your practice. Also, if you would like to support my channel in any way or just support me directly, there's going to be links down below where you can support me and just help out the channel and just help spread the information, just help spread this channel. So the first thing you can do whenever you are creating a new spell or a new ritual is to do any sort of writing to really focus on what your intentions are and what your game plan is for whatever you're working with. This can be done on the first quarter moon if you're working with the moon phases, because this symbolizes new beginnings and just planning for your future. Or if you would like to, you could just do this at the beginning of the week and have this as a game plan for what you're going to do the following week. And the second step in doing a spell is to create a sacred space. Now this is usually done through any sort of area effects, so if you would like to, you can have an incense burning that will apply a certain effect, or if you like to, you can create a simmer pot that will also create sort of an aromatic throughout your room, or if you would like to, you can just have some sort of music blasting that puts you in a good state of mind, or just a good state of whatever you're trying to do. There are multiple different ways to go about setting your space, but the main way of doing it is to do anything that will affect your area. You can do this if you're doing it just for your altar, but I recommend, especially if you're just beginning, setting the entire intention for your space. That way it'll be a lot easier at your altar, and also it'll be a little bit more focused whenever you are focusing the energies at your altar. I'm going to be creating a video all about altars and different ways that you can go about creating an altar. If I have the video posted, it's already up here, but if not, just check back next week and there'll be a video all about creating your altar and different ways that you can use an altar in your practice. So the third step in casting any sort of spell is to focus on any sort of grounding or centering. I have videos all about grounding if you want to know, they're all up here. But grounding is the practice of just centering yourself through nature, and also just a way of just focusing and balancing your energy before you do any sort of spell or ritual. And centering is somewhat the same thing, but it's not really with nature. It's more of just centering your own thoughts and your own actions before you do any sort of spell. Now, if you are going to do centering, that can be sort of tailored in to grounding, but I would suggest you either do both of them, or you really focus on one or the other if you don't have time to. But grounding and centering is a good idea to not only do this before your spell, but also just do it as a regular practice to balance your energies and just balance yourself throughout your practice. So the fifth step in casting any sort of spell is to gather your materials or gather your ingredients. Now this can be done either at your altar or beforehand when you're setting up your altar, but for me personally, I like to gather my ingredients, have it set aside, and then set up my altar with those ingredients. This just helps me to focus my energy on gathering everything up and then sitting down and focusing on the altar and focusing on what I'm trying to manifest. Now you don't necessarily have to do it this way. You can just gather your ingredients, set it at your altar, and then go ahead and do your spell or ritual. But I personally like to gradually build up my energy, gradually build up my intention whenever I am about to do a spell or ritual. This can also be done at a later date, so if you would like to set up your altar, say like before work or before you go and do something, and then afterwards you can visit your altar and do any sort of spell, you can also do that. This will just get you into the good frame of mind of just when you are at this space, you're focusing on this and you're focusing on whatever it is that you're working with. Step 6 for casting a spell. Now this is when you actually do the casting and doing any sort of thing that you're focusing on. During this stage, it's a good idea to figure out what type of order you are going to do your spell. So if you're doing like I am and you're creating a spell jar, you want to really focus on which ingredients you're going to add, and also focus on how you're going to add each ingredient. I am someone that believes that whenever you are doing any sort of practice like this, you need to focus your energy and focus your manifestation on each individual ingredient as you're adding it to the jar. Some people, they will just add the ingredients to the jar and then afterwards they will charge it. But me personally, I like to focus my energies on each ingredient, really focus on what I'm trying to do with this ingredient, what I'm trying to manifest, and just what energies I'm trying to bring into whatever I'm working with, and then add that into whatever I'm doing, whether that be a spell candle or a spell jar or just any sort of ritual. Also, if you are going to be doing this with something that is a spell or a candle, that is a spell jar or a candle, I would really suggest you take the time to, before you do your spell and before you're getting your ingredients, write down exactly what you're focusing on so you can find the correspondence either with the herbs or the energies or just anything that you're working with. You can know exactly what you're working with. So if you're working with salt, you know this is a good grounding and protection thing. You can sort of add that to the bottom to ground out all the energies that you're working with, and then as you go higher, you either build on that foundation of grounding, then doing any sort of support thing or doing any sort of exterior work and just doing like that. I would suggest you do that rather than just putting energy into whatever ingredient and then just throwing it into the spell jar or candle. This will just help you in your practice, and also it's a good idea to focus on which energies you are working with and which order you are going to be adding your ingredients. The last final step, step 7 in casting a spell, is to do any sort of closing. Now this can be done multiple different ways, but the main way that I like to do closing is just putting away any ingredients that I've worked with, make sure I thank the ingredients or thanked any energies that I've worked with, and also just to do any sort of gratitude throughout the spell and just towards the end of the spell to just thank any sort of deities that I'm working with or thank any sort of energies that I'm working with, thank my materials, thank myself, honestly, because it takes a lot of energy to do any sort of spell jar or do any sort of candle. So you need to thank yourself, give yourself props for not only setting aside the time to actually do this, but also to use your own energies for something that you're manifesting. It takes a lot of energy to change your life for the better, or even if you're changing your life for the worse for whatever reason. But it takes a lot of energy to do this, and it's a good idea to give yourself gratitude and just give yourself any sort of praise after you're done. But yeah, that's a basic formula for doing your candle spell or just doing any sort of spell in general. Like I said, I go through this list every time I am doing a spell or a ritual, and you can do different things depending on your practice and also just different things that you personally like doing. So say if you don't want to do incense cleanse before you do anything, you can do a water cleanse or a sound cleanse, and you can just do it your own way, or halfway through if you feel like you need to do a recharge because maybe you're adding your ingredients but maybe you're not in the right headspace. Just take a break, do a cleanse, do a recharge, just do whatever you can, and then just go back to it. If you're feeling some type of way when you are doing a spell, technically that means that you shouldn't be doing it, or maybe you are in the wrong timing of it. But if you're feeling something in the middle of your spell, maybe you need to do a recharge, go ahead, relax, just take a walk, do something to recharge yourself. Especially if you are low in energy and you're focusing your energy on something that is major, something that you want to just work with in the future for a long time. It's a good idea to recharge yourself on a constant basis. Just make sure whenever you are doing your practice that you are at your highest of energy, and also that you are focusing on whatever you are working with. So if you would like to know a little bit more about what I've been talking about or just different things that I've related in this video, I'm going to leave all the videos down below in the description so you can get a better explanation of anything that I've talked about. Also, there will be full in-depth videos on each individual subject, so if you would like to focus on something or maybe you don't really understand something, it will just be in the description. Also, if I have not made a video all about that, then it will be in the description once I do make that video, or it will be above in the cards. But yeah, that's the end of the video. If you would like to know anything else about witchcraft related content, just subscribe to my channel. Also, if you would like to have a video made for you or just want to know anything about witchcraft, just leave it in the comments below and I'll make a video all about that. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Have a good day in our life. Enjoy yourself. Be happy.